The icy evening breeze blew in through the cracks of the bedroom window, brushing across the desk where the National College Entrance Exam admission tickets lay spread out. The corners of the paper trembled slightly, and the certificate information bearing my name, Luna Carter, was clear and complete. I raised a hand to press against the surface. The moment my fingertips touched the smooth texture of the paper, I fully confirmed that I had been reborn, back to 18, on the night before the official start of the exam, tonight of last life. The exact same time, the exact same scene. This life-changing choice lay before me. My twin sister Iris Carter suddenly grew pale, weak all over, bedbound. The parents, instead of taking her to the hospital for checks at once, rushed into my room and forced me to give up tomorrow's national merit exam, to stay at home all day to watch over my sister. At that time I was obedient and compliant, tightly bound by years of family PUA, from childhood. My family constantly fed me the notion that sisters should be modest, sisters should sacrifice, and that a sister's life was not as important as her sister's body. I never once challenged them. I obediently tore up the long-prepared admission ticket, cancelled all exam plans, and stayed at home, taking care of Iris without leaving her side. But in the end, that result ruthlessly shattered all my understanding and willingness to yield. Iris's so-called sudden weakness wasn't illness at all. Just a performance to avoid the high-pressure entrance exams and fear of not achieving good scores. She rested easily at home for 3 days, and after the exams, with the help of parents who pulled strings, she got admitted to a local ordinary university through a special internal assessment, and I, due to missing the exam, lost the once-a-year opportunity for the national merit exam and completely lost the chance to sprint for Ivy League schools. In the following years, I was trapped in this small city, doing the lowest-tier jobs to subsidize the family, endlessly footing Iris's life. Iris rode on the stability I sacrificed, went to college, pursued graduate school, joined a big company, and possessed everything I ought to have had. Even so, the whole family never felt a shred of guilt. They often tell outsiders how selfish and rebellious I am, how I don't understand gratitude, twisting my voluntary sacrifice of the exam to benefit my sister into a joke about my weak coping abilities and retreat under pressure. I was exploited, slandered, my youth spent, and finally I died in a cold rental room, lamenting. Fortunately, fate gave me another chance. This life. I clearly remember all the truths, remember tonight's events, remember every word of their moral coercion, remember my humble and foolish compromise in the previous life, the prestigious school quota that belonged to me, my bright future, my free life. I will not let them slip away again. No one, nothing, can block me from rushing toward the future that belongs to me. The corridor's steps sounded deliberately slowed, yet unmistakably familiar, paced with an air of inevitability. I looked up as the door to my bedroom opened, my gaze fixed on the tightly shut door. Without a trace of panic, I knew exactly who would come in next in the very next second. My mother, Laura Carter, and I also knew every word she was about to say. The door handle turned gently, the bedroom door opened a crack, and Laura slid in halfway. A look of just right anxiety and fatigue on her face, eyes reddened, her voice carrying a gentle insistence that brooked no refusal. No different from last life. Luna, are you asleep? Come out for a moment. There's something at home. I slowly closed the review materials on the desk. Calm and unhurried, not getting up, only sitting in the chair and staring at her straight. If there's a problem, say it here. My coldness slightly startled Laura. In her understanding, I should always be compliant, well-behaved, never argue. And I would never speak to her in such detached, hard tones, but she didn't think much about it, treating it as my pre-exam nerves and irritability, quickly studying her expression, stepping into the bedroom and shutting the door, beginning the lines she had rehearsed countless times. It's about your sister Iris. She suddenly feels extremely unwell tonight, chest tight, sweating all over, tossing and turning on the bed and can't sleep. The family doctor just left, saying she's run down from pre-exam anxiety and needs someone to look after her up close. Absolutely cannot be stimulated at all. Laura walked to my desk, intentionally scanning my admission ticket, her tone growing more earnest, with a heavy sense of moral coercion. Tomorrow is the unified exam. Iris is in no state to take any exam. Her body can't endure it either. There's no one at home to guard her around the clock. You won't take the exam tomorrow. Stay at home to take care of your sister. In my previous life, Hearing this would have filled me with guilt, and I would have immediately nodded, even blaming myself for not noticing my sister's discomfort sooner. But now, I just felt it was incredibly ridiculous. I clearly remember that Iris's so-called serious illness tonight is just a ruse she deliberately cooked up. She's afraid the unified exam will be too difficult, afraid she won't beat me, afraid her mediocrity will be seen by everyone. So she uses illness to avoid the exam, and my parents have always unconditionally favored the weaker sister. In their eyes, my future is nothing, my efforts meaningless, as long as I go along with Iris's wishes, protect Iris's mood. All my sacrifices are justified. I lifted my gaze and looked Laura straight in the eye, my voice calm, with no ripple. I'm not going. 3 short words, and the gentleness on Laura's face instantly stiffened, the anxiety in her eyes turning into disbelief and astonishment. She stared at me blankly, as if for the first time recognizing her own daughter, her voice abruptly rising several notches. Luna, what did you say? Say it again. I said I'm going to take the unified exam tomorrow. I won't stay at home, I repeated, my tone firm, with no retreat. Iris can be taken to the hospital if she's unwell. A caregiver can be hired. You can take care of her yourselves, but I will not give up the exam. Laura's face darkened, her brows furrowed hard, and she began to press with a practiced act of sorrow. Luna, why are you so cold-blooded? She's your own sister. She's in such pain she can't sleep. Her life is at stake, and you only care about your exam. It's just one exam. You can retake next year if needed. If something happened to your sister, you'd regret it for life. The All-American Unified Exam happens once a year. Missing it means a full year of lost opportunities. My life doesn't have that much next year to waste. I looked straight into her eyes, calmly exposing her hypocrisy. Iris's pre-exam anxiety is normal. Every year she fakes illness to avoid major exams, and it's always the same. In past smaller tests I could accommodate her. This time I cannot. Laura's face paled and flushed alternately, and she instantly changed her tune, speaking with hard coercion. What faking illness? How can you be so cruelly suspicious of your sister? She's lying in bed and crying in pain, and you as her sister don't feel sorry at all, and you still mock her. I raised you for so many years just to make you this selfish and indifferent to your family's life. I have never been selfish. I slowly stood up, posture straight, aura steady, from childhood. In all kinds of exams, opportunities, favors, I always let her have them. If she didn't want to do the homework, I did it for her. If she didn't want to participate in activities, I took her place. What she wanted, I yielded. More than 10 years of concessions haven't earned me understanding, but your ever-growing exploitation. Tomorrow's unified exam. I prepared for it for 3 whole years. Countless days and nights I endured. This is the only chance for me to leave this city and change my fate. I will not give up for anyone. Laura was completely flustered. I had never seen me so firm and uncompromising. In the past, as long as she pulled out family ties and played the mother card, I would bow my head, admit fault, and cooperate. But today, my stance was so resolute that there wasn't a single flaw. Entirely out of her control, she started to threaten sharply. Luna, I'm telling you, this home is decided by me and your father. If tomorrow you dare to step out of the house to take the exam, you'll be unfilial, you'll be cruel to abandon your family. When your dad comes back, I'll see if you dare be so willful again. I looked back at her calmly, with no fear at all. Taking the exam is my rightful claim. I have done nothing wrong. Filial piety is not one-sided sacrifice and compromise. You cannot use family affection to coerce my life. There was a slight sound from outside the bedroom door, and with my peripheral vision I caught a slender figure flashing around the corner of the corridor. It was Iris. She hadn't been bedridden at all. She was secretly hiding outside the door, listening in. She wanted to witness me compromise with her own eyes, see me give up my future proactively, to accommodate her comfort. I didn't expose her little ploy, but still kept my gaze steadily on Laura, whose face had turned ashen, and quietly waited for what would come next. After a night of stalemate, dawn broke outside the window, and morning light streamed into the living room through the floor-to-ceiling window. I tidied up my entire set of exam supplies, dressed neatly, and walked out of the bedroom with my exam permit in hand, following the trajectory of my past life. Today the whole family would gather in the living room to mount a full and familial siege. forcing me to abandon the exam and stay behind. The living room was brightly lit. Father Ryan was already sitting in the center of the sofa with a cold, stern look and an oppressive aura surrounding him. Mother Laura stood to one side, eyes red-rimmed, looking as if she hadn't slept all night and had endured countless grievances. Iris, who should have been bedridden with illness, was draped in a soft cashmere blanket, half reclining on a single sofa. Her complexion pale but her eyes bright and clear, utterly free of being sickly. The three of them formed a blockade, precisely closing off the only path to the entrance hall, and the family's judicial stance was fully set. Laura spoke first, her voice carrying the fatigue of waking up and a deliberate accusation, magnifying last night's confrontation. "You were set on being selfish last night. I didn't sleep at all. Iris was uncomfortable all night, couldn't even swallow saliva. And you only care about your exam, Luna. You've broken our hearts." Iris cooperated in time, coughing lightly, raising a hand to her chest, her voice weak and hoarse, showing flawless acting. "Sister, I didn't mean to delay your exam. I'm really not feeling well. I also want to take part in the unified examination, but my body can't hold up. If you really want to go, I won't blame you. I'll just stay at home and endure it." This kind of retreatist advancement rhetoric is her usual tactic, seemingly understanding and letting go. It actually pins all the selfish, cold-blooded sins on me, pushing me to concede voluntarily. In my previous life, I dreaded this moral restraint. As long as Iris feigned weakness and cried, I would immediately soften, give up all MYS, appease the family, and stay behind. But now I stand quietly in place, calm and unmoved. Before I could speak, Father Ryan spoke in a deep, unyielding voice. "Luna, the situation at home is before us. Your sister's health is more important. The exam can be repeated for another year. Today you must stay at home and take care of Iris. This is your responsibility as an older sister." I looked up at him, every word clear, my tone firm. "The unified exam happens only once a year. My preparation cycle, registration eligibility, and future plans are all bound to this exam, with no chance to repeat. Responsibility is not a one-sided sacrifice. I have no obligation to pay for others' cowardice." Ryan's face immediately darkened, brows furrowed, and he began to invoke the long-standing family discipline. "Your mother and I worked hard to raise you and your sisters. When you were grown, you should know how to repay and yield. Iris has always been frail. We've spoiled her a little more, which was right. You are strong and capable. Sacrificing once isn't a big deal. Being strong is not a reason I should be the one to sacrifice." I cut him off directly, hitting at the family's double-standard heathen. "I've stayed up late studying for years, disciplined and under pressure. I'm responsible for my own life." Her melodrama, fear of difficulty, and pretending to be sick is her responsibility to her own life. Why should my strive be paying for her weakness? The line silenced Ryan. Laura immediately stepped forward, entering crying mode, raising her voice to create emotional pressure. "We've raised you for over a decade. Did we raise you wrong? Just one exam. Do you have to fight us and watch your sister suffer? How can you be so heartless?" Iris took advantage of the moment, bowing her head, wiping away tears, her shoulders trembling ever so slightly, appearing soft and innocent. "Dad, Mom, please don't push sis anymore. It's my fault. I'm useless. I can't even face the exam. I shouldn't drag sis down." Her self-deprecation, while seeming self-blame, effectively solidified my role as cold-blooded and unfeeling toward family. The three of them, in perfect harmony, one line after another, applying pressure layer by layer, trying to force me to bow under the shackles of more than 10 years of family affection. I will no longer passively endure accusations, my gaze directly locking onto Iris, exposing all her disguises in public. "Since you feel so guilty, since you don't want to burden me, at 2 o'clock this morning, when you were in your room scrolling short videos and watching entertainment streams, laughing out loud, why didn't you think about burdening me?" Iris stiffened all over, the hand-wiping tears suddenly stopping midair, fear and astonishment flashing in her eyes. She had never expected that her late-night little actions would be laid bare for me to see. I continued to calmly present evidence, every word true and piercing. "Your so-called chest tightness and insomnia were acts to be seen by your parents. You deliberately stayed up late to scroll your phone, just to stay up until the day of the exam. using physical discomfort as an excuse to avoid the unified exam. From the beginning, you were certain that as long as you pretended to be sick, the whole family would force me to withdraw from the exam to cover for you. Laura's complexion changed abruptly, and she immediately retorted strongly, "You're talking nonsense. Iris clearly suffers so badly she can't sleep all night. How could she watch videos? You've already started fabricating false accusations about your own sister for the sake of the exam." Whether I'm fabricating or not, one look is enough to confirm, I spoke calmly, with unwavering confidence. Her phone's background browsing history, the length of time spent in live rooms, the early morning-like records, all of this can be verified. Do you want me to take her phone right now and verify each item in front of all of you? Iris panicked instantly, her eyes dodging, instinctively tucking the back of her hand behind her, her fingertips slightly trembling. She would never dare let her parents inspect the phone. Once verified, all disguises would be exposed on the spot, and her sweet, weak persona would be completely shattered. Seeing her sister's panicked, guilty look, Ryan and Laura had already reached an answer in their hearts. They simply did not want to publicly admit that their years-long partiality and indulgence had all been a joke. The atmosphere instantly reversed. The three who once held the moral high ground were completely on the defensive. Laura, still not willing to give up, forced pressure again, even if she didn't rest well last night. It's also anxiety before the exam. Her illness is a fact. You, as her sister, should show tolerance and understanding, not nitpick and push her aggressively like this. Understanding is reciprocal. I stood my ground, aura calm and steady. For the past 18 years, I've tolerated her capriciousness, accommodated her emotions, given up every opportunity. I have already shown understanding countless times. This time, I prioritize understanding myself, understanding the 3 years of days and nights I've studied. Seeing that soft, moral coercive methods had all failed, Ryan completely tore off the gentle facades, his tone hard and threatening. "One last time I ask you, are you going to the exam today or not?" I looked up directly, with no hesitation. "Yes, I'm going." I'm carrying the pre-packed exam stationaries bag and document folder, turning toward the foyer to put on my shoes, preparing to drive to the unified exam site. The private driveway at the doorstep is the only route I must pass, and they have long anticipated my moves, cutting off all possible paths in advance. Father Ryan rushed to my white private car first, directly pulling out the car keys, clenching them tightly in his hand, standing in the center of the car's front, motionless, using his body and documents to seal off my travel route from both sides. Mother Laura followed suit, quickly blocking the side of the car door, arms folded across her chest, a vigilant stance. Iris, who had just been exposed in the living room for lying and losing face, no longer maintained her meek, sensible disguise. Strolling out slowly with eyes filled with unwillingness and malice, they abandoned the soft coercion of moral intimidation and immediately used hard, violent obstruction, intending to physically blockade and force my concession. "Hand over the keys. You're not driving this car today." Ryan's face was ice cold, his tone domineering to the extreme. "As long as you and your mother disagree, you won't take a single step out of this house. Go back to your room obediently and take care of your sister. I can overlook this matter in the past." Laura immediately joined in, her tone sharp and forceful. "I've raised you with your father all these years. Everything you have is what we gave you, including this car, your registration eligibility, all your opportunities. If we don't let you go, you're not qualified to go." This is their consistent twisted logic, habitually attributing my personal efforts and legal rights to the family's charity, attempting to continue controlling my life by controlling material and resources. In the previous life, I was trapped by this bandit logic, giving up my bottom line again and again. But now, I'm not backing down one step. I take out my phone and directly turn on the recording function, raising my hand steady, documenting the entire process openly as evidence. I want to clarify again that the National University Unified Exam is my legitimate examination right, protected by U.S. education law. I have completed proper registration and payment on record, and I have a legitimate qualification to reference. Your private seizure of my means of travel and obstruction of my taking the legally scheduled exam constitutes malicious infringement and illegal restriction of personal freedom. My voice is calm and clear, every word fully captured by the recording device. Ryan and Laura are stunned. They never thought that the typically compliant me would know how to use legal terms to counter, and would even record evidence directly. Iris, sensing her parents' momentum being pressured, immediately resorts to her old tricks, a slight sway of her body and a sudden collapse onto the lawn, hands pressed over her chest, body twitching slightly, voice fierce yet weak. Sis, I really can't hold on. If you must go. If something happens to me today, it's all your fault. She precisely targets her parents' soft spots, skillfully staging a fainting drama, hoping to pressure me with a martyr's tactic and make me bear the blame for harming her sick sister and abandoning the family. Laura is instantly moved emotionally, turning to scold me. Look at you. You're determined to push your sister to harm, aren't you? If you drive away today and anything happens to your sister, I and your dad will never forgive you in this lifetime. Ryan, using Iris's performance, grows even more rigid, gripping the car keys tightly. Go back to your room immediately. Give up the exam. And I'll pretend you were momentarily confused. Otherwise, today I will teach you what family warmth and rules really mean. Faced with the combined hard pressure from the three of them, I don't panic at all. My phone remains steadily recording, and I step forward slowly, my gaze coldly sweeping over Iris lying on the ground and pretending. First, the angle of your fall, the extent of your convulsions, and your regular act of feigning illness to avoid things are exactly the same as before, with no difference. I speak calmly, every word exposing the truth. Second, it is now early morning with ample light. Surrounding neighbors and community surveillance cover the area, and every one of your movements is being fully recorded. Third, I recorded the entire process to collect evidence, all of your malicious acts to obstruct a legitimate exam, feign illness to coercively pressure me, and illegally restrict my freedom are full evidence. Iris's body stiffened instantly. The faint convulsions she had pretended paused abruptly. What she fears most is leaving substantial evidence. Once these scenes are preserved, her lie of faking illness to miss the exam will be completely whitewashed. I continued to apply calm pressure, giving them no chance to counterattack. If you block my exam now, you have already affected my legal right to advance to higher education. If I miss the exam and lose the opportunity, I have the right under local law to pursue infringement liability against you, demand full compensation for all losses, and permanently reserve the right to pursue accountability. Laura's face turned pale in an instant, instinctively glancing at Ryan, the fear in her eyes first appearing in her pupils. They are just ordinary family parents who want to control their daughter and the household discourse, who never dare to truly touch legal disputes, and who do not want to invite infringement lawsuits by obstructing their child's exam. Ryan stubbornly maintained his ironclad stance, refusing to soften. What does legality have to do with a family? You're utterly cold-blooded, completely crazy. Affection is mutual tolerance and respect, not unilateral sacrifice. I pressed on step by step, with a firm tone. You may not care about family, but I must safeguard my legitimate life. Now, return my car keys at once and stop all obstructive actions. Seeing the parents still stubbornly immovable, I opened the community security hotline directly and clearly reported into my phone. I am Luna Carter, a resident of the park area. My family is maliciously obstructing me at my doorstep, restricting my personal freedom, preventing me from participating in the legally mandated entrance exam. Recording the entire process for evidence. Please have the security on site immediately. This statement completely shattered the psychological defenses of the whole family. They can privately manipulate and morally coerce me at home, but they absolutely do not dare to let security and outsiders interfere in family matters. Once security arrives, all the farce will be made public. The family's bias, feigning illness, and forcibly obstructing their daughter's education will spread throughout the entire neighborhood and become everyone's laughingstock. Iris could no longer maintain the facade. Scrambling up from the lawn, her face as pale as death, no longer the previously feeble sickly appearance, her eyes full of panic. Ryan's hardline stance completely collapsed, his hand gripping the key tightening slightly, his eyes filled with unbelievable panic. He had never imagined that the person who had always allowed them to smooth things over would actually dare to tear off the mask and seek help from outsiders, truly breaking the family's rules of interaction. Laura was utterly frightened and flustered, her tone shifting from threats to frantic reproach. What do you want to do? Make a scene over a small thing and bring in the security? Do you want the whole neighborhood to see our family's joke? It's you who insist on blocking my lawful exam, driving me to this point. I reached out, directly asking for the keys. One last time, give me the keys back. Looking at me, unwavering and uncompromising, and thinking that security would arrive soon, Ryan could no longer hold on. He turned ashen-faced and slammed the car keys onto the lawn in front of me with great force. I bent down to pick up the keys, calm and efficient, without the slightest hesitation. The entire time I kept recording, packed up my phone, opened the car door, and sat in the driver's seat. The three people outside stood there, their faces ashen and speechless, with no more momentum to obstruct. They watched me start the vehicle, watched the window roll up slowly, completely cutting off their yelling and accusations. The engine roared to life, and the car smoothly drove out of the driveway. I sped across in my car and arrived at the National Standard Exam Point 20 minutes later. The school gate was crowded with examinees, and parents stood densely together. Everyone was making final preparations for this exam that would determine their academic fate. I parked and, carrying my test materials, walked briskly toward the entrance, thinking I had finally shaken off my family's entanglement. To my surprise, they had followed in a car and were blocked at the main gate. Ryan and Laura, with Iris in tow, rushed ahead of me and stood in my path, blocking the only way into the campus and publicly starting a disturbance. They completely abandoned all decency, intending to leverage the crowd in a public setting to pressure me into compromise. Laura raised her voice first, crying to the surrounding parents and examinees, feigning misfortune and grievance with a tone of utter innocence. Everyone, help me judge this. My daughter is too cold-hearted and selfish. Her own younger sister is gravely ill, bedridden, and there's no one to take care of her at home. Yet she insists on taking the exam on her own, completely disregarding her family's life or death. It is utterly unfilial. Her pace of speech was rapid, and she deliberately raised the volume, instantly drawing the attention of everyone nearby. Many parents who did not understand the truth glanced over, whispered, and looked at me with suspicion and resentment. Ryan followed closely, maintaining a calm face to help mobilize the crowd, deliberately shaping me as rebellious and cold-hearted. We raised her with care for 18 years. Now her sister is gravely ill, and she is only thinking about her own future, heartlessly abandoning her family. We really can't stop her. We can only beg her in public to at least spare a little family affection. Iris, again in a vulnerable pose, pale and with red-rimmed eyes, slightly leaned against her mother, her voice choked with emotion. Sister, I don't ask you for anything else, just to spend one day at home with me. I really can't hold on any longer. Please don't be so cruel, okay? The three of them sang in harmony, their coordination flawless. In a matter of seconds they had labeled me as selfish, cold-hearted, and disobedient, attempting to coerce me to give up the exam and bow to public opinion. The surrounding crowd's discussions grew louder, and many soft-hearted parents began to rebuke me, making the situation extremely unfavorable to me. Facing the public's criticism, I did not waver in the slightest, remaining calm and composed throughout. I raised my phone and produced a complete recording and video evidence, speaking clearly to the crowd with a voice that was bright and strong, cutting through the background noise. Please silence everyone and listen to me for a moment. I have full evidence of all the truths. I opened a video and played the morning footage publicly. Iris pretending to be ill with convulsions on the lawn, then turning to reveal a clear, bright gaze, forcibly grabbing my car keys and obstructing my participation in the legally mandated exam. These scenes were clear and undeniable. Next I played the recording of their family's moral coercion and their forcible deprivation of my right to advance the next stage in life. As I played, I calmly explained the truth, line by line. First, my sister is not gravely ill. She has been deliberately pretending to be sick as part of a ploy to evade the national exam. At 2 a.m., she was still watching short videos and live streams, far from pathological. Second, the national exam is held only once a year and is my lawful regulatory opportunity for advancement, protected by law. Third, it isn't that I don't care about my family, but my parents and sister, in order to favor indulgence and enable evasion, forcibly obstructed my life's path. Once the truth was laid bare in public, the surrounding noisy chatter instantly quieted. Everyone's gaze quickly shifted from initial doubt to clarity and disdain. Laura's face instantly turned chalk-white, and she hurriedly reached out to grab my phone. But I sidestepped precisely to avoid her. You're lying. "You faked the video," she yelled in a rage, trying to overturn the situation by force. The neighborhood surveillance, phone back-end records, and full audio and video recordings, everything can be verified and traced. I looked at her coldly, my tone firm. "I can immediately contact the property management and technicians on site to verify. And see who is lying in public and turning things upside down." Ryan's face turned ashen. They had planned to use public opinion to force me to admit defeat, but I never expected that I would hold the complete evidence and overturn the situation right there, exposing their hypocrisy and favoritism in front of everyone. The onlookers' parents reversed their opinion in an instant, whispering criticisms at the three of them. So they were pretending to be sick. This family is so double-standard. Forcing the sister to sacrifice her future to fulfill the younger sister's laziness is too much. The child has been preparing for exams for 3 years. Why should they pay for someone else's cowardice? The biting voices of opinion piled up and struck the three of them hard. Iris could no longer maintain the fragile persona. Her eyes reddened with both shame and anger. She gripped the hem of her clothes tightly, not daring to look up at anyone. The staff at the test center responsible for maintaining order stepped forward and said sternly, "Gathering crowds, spreading rumors, and pressuring others at the exam site are strictly prohibited and will seriously disrupt the exam. Leave the examination area immediately, or you will be reported." Stepping into the examination hall, I quickly found my corresponding seat, neatly arranged my documents and stationery, and calmed myself in preparation to answer. I thought that after my family failed at the entrance of the test center they would stop, but I didn't expect they still wouldn't give up, hiding in the shadows, waiting for a chance to exact revenge. Planning to use more covert means to revoke my exam qualification. 20 minutes after the exam began, I had already entered the answering state, writing smoothly with clear thinking. 2 exam center invigilators suddenly walked straight to my seat, interrupting my rhythm, and whispered that I had been real name complaint and needed to cooperate in an exit clearance regarding disciplinary issues. The surrounding candidates looked over, instantly bringing strong psychological pressure. I put down my pen, calmly cooperating with the staff to leave the venue and proceed to the examination clearance room. Throughout the process I was not at all flustered. I was clear that I had done nothing wrong, and this was bound to be Ryan and Laura's retaliation. The clearance staff informed me on the spot of the complaint. A parent reported that I carried prohibited electronic devices, caused pre-exam disputes to disrupt the exam, and behaved inappropriately, requesting the center cancel my unified exam results and exam eligibility. This set of accusations was precise and vicious. If proven, not only would my current be void, but I would also be recorded in the Examination Integrity Archive, seriously affecting my future admissions and potentially wrecking my path to a prestigious school. I immediately spoke up, presenting a clear self-defense. I underwent full security checks upon entering, with no prohibited items. The security records can be checked. After the exam began, I answered quietly throughout, never argued with anyone. The surrounding candidates and surveillance footage can attest to this. I then proactively submitted the complete previously recorded video and audio evidence, facing the clearance staff directly. The people accusing me are my parents and sister. They could not force me to quit the exam, so they maliciously fabricated disciplinary facts and defamed me, to deprive me of my legal right to take the exam. The staff quickly checked the surveillance footage, which clearly showed that after I entered, I behaved quietly and answered all questions, with no improper actions. All the accusations were unfounded. The truth came to light, and the clearance personnel immediately deemed the complaint invalid, fully clearing my disciplinary suspicion. At the same time, I immediately called for accountability in the opposite direction, taking a firm stance. The other party maliciously defamed, disturbed the examination order, and hindered the examinees from taking the test normally, which constitutes malicious disruption of the exam process. I request the center to register accountability according to the rules, and formally warn the 3 individuals. The center contacted the off-site security guards and confirmed that Ryan, Laura, and Iris had not left the area. They remained near the exam center, continuing to monitor the exam dynamics and wait for an opportunity to cause trouble. The staff immediately went out and publicly issued a stern reprimand to the 3, clearly stating that they had maliciously defamed, conspired to disrupt unified testing order, which violated the center's management regulations. If they continued to cause trouble, the police would be involved, and illegal records would be kept. The three who had been lurking in the background grew panicked. They had originally intended to quietly revoke my exam qualification, leaving me speechless and stigmatized. Never imagining they would be held accountable in reverse, questioned publicly. The official warning from the exam center carried far more weight than neighborhood gossip. Once a record was created, it would directly affect my family's credit and community reputation. Ryan and Laura's faces went pale. They no longer had their previous arrogance and could only bow their heads to accept the criticism. Afraid to utter a word in defense, Iris was even more frightened. Her whole body tensing up, completely losing the nerve to maneuver. After resolving all the disputes, I received an apology from the staff and was allowed to return to the exam room to continue the test. The first day of the unified exam subjects ended smoothly. I submitted my paper and left the examination building. Stepping out into the campus, I thought the upheaval had subsided. But as soon as I reached the outdoor lounge, a group of familiar silhouettes crowded into my field of vision. Iris had even contacted a mob of relatives ahead of time, taking advantage of the lunch break to assemble a blockading force, planning to use the pressure of friends and family to completely crush me. Besides the pale-faced Ryan and Laura, aunts and uncles, several close relatives also arrived, all standing on Iris's side, their eyes fixed on me with obvious hostility. Obviously, the family had already prearranged a unified rhetoric in advance, ready to carry out a full-spectrum family judgment of me. Iris stood in the center of the crowd, eyes red, shoulders slightly raised, a look of grievance. Before I could speak, Aunt stepped forward first, her tone sharp and domineering, directly switching to a mode of accusation. "Luna, you are so inconsiderate. Your sister is physically weak and unwell at home, and the whole family is worried about her, yet you only care about your own exam." Cold-blooded to the point of chilling people. No matter how good you are at studying, if you lose your character and family affection, it's all for nothing. Uncle followed suit, his tone carrying a condescending judgment. "As an older sister, you should be more considerate of your younger sibling. It's just one exam. There's no need to be so nitpicky and ruin the family ties. You've gone too far this time and must immediately go home to apologize to your sister." One after another they spoke, piling moral pressure on me. They deliberately ignored all preceding facts, completely overlooking Iris pretending to be ill to skip the exam and the families maliciously making trouble and falsely accusing me. They only clung to the single point of the older sister won't let the younger sister, slapping labels of selfishness, rebelliousness, and heartlessness onto me at will. Laura seized the moment, lowering her voice to cry, "We really can't manage her. We had to ask the family to intervene and persuade her. Now her eyes are only on her own future, completely ignoring the lives and well-being of the whole family. If this goes on, we'll truly be estranged from all our relatives." Iris lowered her head and shed tears at the right moment, looking fragile and innocent, which made the relatives more biased toward her and the accusations against me more intense. Faced with everyone's collective judgment, I did not yield a bit. In my past life, I was swept up by this double-standard crowd of relatives, repeatedly compromising, admitting fault, and sacrificing my own life for so-called family harmony. This time, I would not endure a single unjust accusation. I lifted my gaze to the crowd, my tone calm but piercing, and rebutted them one by one, exposing each person's hypocrisy precisely. I first looked at Aunt. "Last year I prepared for the state competition. The night before the exam, you claimed your own child's homework was not done, forced me to stay up late to tutor, delaying my review and causing me to miss the competition. Back then you said I was magnanimous and should yield to the younger generation. How did that become me being selfish and heartless at this critical stage of my education?" Aunt's face instantly stiffened, wordless, the sharp words choking in her throat. I then turned to Uncle. "The year before, Iris wanted a new tablet. You encouraged me to give up my scholarship to buy her the equipment, saying I was old and there was no shortage of things to play with, but I have been studying for 3 years. The only chance for advancement is within this exam, yet you tell me to yield. Is your sense of fairness always only for me, never for Iris?" Uncle looked awkward, avoiding my gaze and no longer daring to judge my right or wrong. I swept the room with a clear voice and publicly shredded everyone's double standards. "All of you only know how to urge me to be magnanimous, to yield, to sacrifice. For so many years, I've given opportunities, resources, and favored treatment without ever counting. Yet no one tells Iris to be sensible, to work hard, To take responsibility, everyone assumes that I should unconditionally give. And she should be unconditionally favored. I raised my hand and pulled out my phone, quickly pulling up a short, incriminating clip. My sister fakes illness to skip exams. Stays up late watching dramas for entertainment. There is documentary evidence all along. My parents maliciously obstruct me from taking the exam, and the exam site has recorded warnings. The whole thing from start to finish was their paranoia, bias, and irrational fussing. Not my lack of filial piety or kindness. You don't seek the truth or judge right from wrong. You only know how to moralize as a group. Using the pretext of family affection to bully and pressure me, the so-called kinship has always been a tool they used to constrain me. When these words landed, the room fell completely silent. All the accusations from friends and relatives abruptly ceased. And everyone wore expressions of awkwardness and embarrassment. They had hoped to force me to bow and admit fault by the sheer number of people, but I turned over old accounts bit by bit, exposed the hypocrisy, and left them utterly unable to refute. Iris could no longer pretend to be aggrieved. Her face turned pale and then flushed. She clutched the hem of her clothes tightly, her eyes frantically shifting. She hadn't expected me to tear down the relatives' facades in public, to completely shatter this farcical kidnapping of family affection. Ryan and Laura looked at the embarrassed expressions of their relatives and panicked. They had originally planned to subdue me with the help of outsiders, but instead they made all the relatives see clearly the truth of the home's favoritism, indulgence, and irrational fussing. Losing all social support and credibility, I swept the crowd with a cold gaze. My exam isn't over yet, and I don't want to be disturbed by meaningless trifles. If anyone forcibly moralizes, blocks, or pressures me again, I will call the police directly and reserve all accountability rights. The relatives wilted completely, no longer daring to speak a word, and could only stand there awkwardly, stuck between retreat and advance. This meticulously planned disruption by relatives completely collapsed, becoming a joke of everyone humiliating themselves. I didn't stay any longer, turned around, and walked straight back to the exam site's resting area, quietly waiting for the second half of the exam. The afternoon statewide exam ended smoothly. I walked out of the test center with a calm, relaxed mindset. After days of confrontation, blockades, and false accusations, I had long since completely shed my former weakness and timidity, leaving only clarity and resolve, while Ryan and Laura, in front of family and friends, had already lost face and suffered repeated setbacks at the test center, full of resentment and nowhere to vent. They simply switched to a new tactic, planning to leverage official community forces to pressure me into bowing, admitting fault, and yielding. When I got home, before stepping inside, I saw a community official car parked at the doorway. A district community mediator was waiting in the courtyard. Laura was readied and crying softly, while Ryan stood to the side with a cold expression, deliberately creating an atmosphere of a distressed family. Iris leaned beside her mother, feigning weakness, cooperating with her parents to perform a melodramatic scene. Seeing my return, Laura immediately raised her voice and continued accusing the mediator, each word purposely smearing me. "Staff, you must help us. My daughter Luna has become increasingly rebellious and cold-blooded, disloyal to her family. For the sake of a single exam, she disregards her family's safety, openly challenges her elders, insults relatives, even maliciously escalates family conflicts, and deliberately destroys family relations. We can't discipline her, so we have to seek community mediation." Ryan followed with a careful, precise addition, deliberately labeling me with serious negative traits. "She is paranoid and selfish, ungrateful to family, refuses to take on any family responsibilities, allows her younger sister to suffer without care, even maliciously collecting evidence and threatening her parents, with a hostile attitude and no basic moral literacy." The two of them spoke in chorus, reversing right and wrong, pushing all fault onto me, portraying themselves as wronged, powerless parents unable to discipline their children, hoping the community would step in to pressure me to apologize, concede, and drop the exam. The mediator maintained neutrality, looked at me, and gently signaled me to explain the situation. I spoke directly, without extra words, turning on my phone to show full records, all recordings and videos from the past days, test center filing records, from the family's early morning car blockage, Iris pretending to be ill to skip the exam, to the test center's public smear campaign, to the test site's deliberate false accusations and complaints. Then to friends and relatives gathering to morally coerce me. All evidence was clear and complete, with a coherent timeline and no gaps. I spoke calmly and clearly, stating the facts. It was not my rebellion or disobedience all along. It was my parents and sister who, to indulgence and avoidance of exams, intentionally blocked my legitimate admission exam multiple times, spread rumors to damage my reputation in public, and even maliciously filed complaints with the test center to invalidate my results and ruin my prospects. I opened the official warning record from the test center and showed it to the mediator. The center has official records confirming that my family engaged in malicious disruption of the exam hall and false reporting, an officially stamped document with legal effect. Then I continued. For many years, our family has favored my sister, indoctrinating me to unconditionally sacrifice and retreat from every opportunity. This statewide exam is my 3-year preparation and the only 1-year chance for legitimate advancement. They, to indulge my sister's fear of exams and avoidance, are willing to destroy my life, engaging in infringements and provocations throughout. Now they even go so far as to sue first, attempting to coerce me to compromise with community pressure. The solid evidence left no room for their reversed arguments to survive. The mediator checked the videos, recordings, and official records one by one, their expression gradually turning serious as they quickly clarified the whole sequence. The mediation attitude, once biased toward the disadvantaged parents, completely reversed. And the mediator turned to Ryan and Laura. According to the complete evidence provided by your daughter, this dispute was entirely caused by your overindulgence and malicious disturbances. Children have the legal right to pursue further education. No one has the right to obstruct or deprive them. You have repeatedly interfered, spread rumors, and made false accusations, which already constitute infringements on personal rights. The mediator spoke in a solemn tone and gave both of them a stern, on-the-spot admonition. Family education must avoid double standards, favoritism, and indulgence. If you do not correct your child's avoidance of difficulties, but instead suppress the child who is making an effort, and force one side to sacrifice unconditionally, deliberately create family division, this is an extremely wrong way of educating. If harassment and pressure and provocation continue, the community will file a record and involve relevant authorities. Public and formal official criticism carries more weight than neighborhood gossip or friends' accusations. Ryan and Laura's faces immediately turned pale, their bodies stiffened, and they could no longer maintain their posture of grievance and melodrama. They had hoped to use the community mediation as a cover to suppress me, coerce me to admit fault, and use official authority to dampen my resolve and completely control my life. They never expected that I hold a complete set of evidence, which not only proves my innocence but also publicly highlights and labels their faults. Iris stood to the side, no longer daring to feign weakness and pity, her fingertips tightly gripping the hem of her clothes, head bowed very low, cheeks flushed with shame and panic. She clearly understood that this official filing would finally fix the truth, that she pretended to be sick to avoid exams, dragged the family down, and maliciously schemed against her older sister, and she would no longer be able to whitewash her public image. After the community staff finished the registration, they clearly informed the two of them. The responsibility for this dispute lies entirely with the parents and their younger daughter, Luna, and Luna does not need to apologize, concede, or compromise in any way. At the same time, they were strictly ordered not to interfere with my normal study and life for any reason in the future. The farce ended completely. The mediator drove away. In the courtyard, only our family remained, the atmosphere dead and oppressive. After the community mediation crushing defeat, Ryan and Laura lost face, and the resentment and unwillingness in their hearts finally exploded. They dared not cause trouble offline, dared not provoke official agencies, so they shifted their schemes to the internet, planning to use the spread on social platforms and rely on online harassment to force me to bow. That night, a defamatory long post appeared on the local life forum and in private groups of friends and family, signed Laura. The content distorted everything, falsely claiming that I am cold-blooded and unfilial, abandoned my seriously ill sister for exams, talked back to my parents, provoked relatives, and even fabricating unfounded remarks that I disregard family ties and have a twisted personality, deliberately shaping me into an extremely selfish villain. Not long after the post, Unsuspecting netizens were misled by the one-sided copy and criticized and insulted me in the comments. Many relatives shared it, agreeing with the accusation of my rebellious misdeeds. For a time, the online negativity toward me surged. Iris even quietly stoked the flames, posting a sympathetic piece in her private circle of friends, hinting that I pressured my family and hurt myself, continuing to magnify the public opinion harm, with the sole aim of making me be condemned across the internet, ultimately forcing me to concede and admit fault. Faced with the overwhelming defamation, I showed no panic at all. After layer upon layer of confrontation, I had long anticipated that they would retaliate with underhanded means and that they held a full set of flawless evidence in hand. I did not immediately argue emotionally. I calmly organized all material. Iris's late-night video viewing back-end records, the whole video of them blocking the doorway, the filing screenshots of the official warning over the exam point, the full recording of the community mediation and the workers' notes. One piece of evidence after another formed a clear timeline, with a complete logical loop, truly restoring the full picture of the events. Subsequently, I posted a long article, with a clear structure that reviewed the entire process, tearing apart their fabricated lies one by one, plainly exposing the family's long-standing favoritism and PUA exploitation of me, and uncovering the truth that Iris faked illness to skip exams and the whole family conspired to obstruct my legitimate advancement in education. Once the long article was published, it instantly triggered a public outcry. The complete chain of evidence was laid bare for the public, and netizens became lucid, and the wind direction completely reversed. Previously, the comments insulting me were quickly countered, and everyone saw the truth of this family hijacking. Netizens condemned the three of them for double standards and turning black into white, denouncing that they would ruin the elder sister's life to indulge a pampered younger daughter, and that they themselves preemptively alerted authorities and engaged in online attacks against their own relatives. The negative public opinion toward me completely cleared, and instead the whole internet mocked and criticized Ryan, Laura, and Iris. Relatives who previously went along with defaming me quietly deleted their posts and shut comments, fearing involvement. No one dared take their side anymore, and the whole family became a joke across the internet, watching from behind the scenes. Laura saw the public opinion completely turn against them and panicked, hurriedly deleting posts and attempting to delete comments. But it was already captured by a large number of netizens and could not be undone. Ryan watched the online ridicule flood in. His face was lost, and his former dominance was gone. Iris's carefully maintained fragile innocent persona completely collapsed, and there were ubiquitous online comments about her acting, faking illness, and selfish cowardice. They originally intended to destroy my reputation online to force me to give up on the exams and compromise, but in the end they themselves buried their own reputation, ending up with a public shaming across the entire internet. After the online public opinion backlash, Ryan and Laura's reputations were tarnished, and their neighbors and social circles completely isolated them. Offline disturbances drew warnings from authorities. Online harassment backfired, and family pressure collapsed the household. With nowhere to turn, the two grew frantic, turned to the law's loopholes, and planned to use the most extreme means to target me. They were unwilling to let me escape their control, pursue prestigious schools, or accept my breaking of the family's bias toward Iris. After much consideration, the two of them booked a local family law firm for consultations overnight, intending to use the legal framework support, family duties, and child obligations to bind me, force me to give up the national exam results, admit fault, and return to the family to continue sacrificing. The next morning, the whole family dressed up and headed straight for the law firm. They deliberately brought Iris, posing as a vulnerable victimized family, planning to shape in front of the lawyer an image of me rebellious and unfilial, abandoning the family, and refusing to fulfill my duties as a child, in order to obtain a compliant opinion letter from the lawyer, which would later serve as a basis for litigation and pressure against me. I had already anticipated their move through the family chat history, and arrived at the law firm at the same time, calmly watching their performance from start to finish. Facing a practicing lawyer, Laura first tearfully claimed and distorted all the facts. She lied that I had recently changed my temperament, deliberately severed the family, refused to communicate, neglected my ailing sister for my own studies, refused to take on family responsibilities, with a hostile, cold-blooded attitude, and begged the lawyer to help restrain my behavior through legal means, to compel me to fulfill my duties to my parents and protect my sister. Ryan added with corroboration, exaggerating my faults, claiming that after I gained access to higher education opportunities, one became more arrogant, ignored my parents' upbringing, repeatedly challenged elders in public, maliciously escalated family conflicts, even threatened accountability for family members, completely abandoning my duties as a younger generation, and asking the lawyer to intervene and discipline me. Iris continued to cooperate smoothly, lowering her eyes, shedding tears, and appearing frail, as if deeply hurt by me and chronically oppressed, further reinforcing the illusion of the whole family as vulnerable victims. After listening to the family's one-sided statements, the lawyer, initially neutral, patiently asked for specific dispute details and outlined the core of the family conflict. Before the lawyer could propose an initial plan, I stood up, orderly presenting the full set of archived evidence, from the on-site footage of Iris pretending to be ill and skipping exams, to back-end records, to multiple instances of the family deliberately blocking my legally required exams, to exam-site defamation filings, to community mediation notes, and to full-screen screenshots of the online public opinion reversal. The materials were organized, coherent, and cyclic. I clearly and directly explained the whole picture to the lawyer. My parents and sister have long been in a biased faction, habitually exploiting and sacrificing my life so as to nurture another party's laziness and timidity. This national unified examination is my legal, compliant opportunity and educational rights protection for advancement, with no violations or fault on my part. It is they who have maliciously infringed and caused trouble repeatedly, and after repeated failures, they again seek to reverse the truth and force me under the guise of law. I then precisely pointed out their legal misconceptions, hitting the weak points. There is no legal obligation on U.S. minors or eligible students to guarantee or sacrifice the younger siblings' futures. The duty of support only applies to situations where parents lack the ability to work or have no income. Currently, both are healthy and financially stable, and do not meet the conditions for accountability. On the contrary, they have repeatedly maliciously blocked my legitimate exams, falsely accused me, and defamed me, which already constitutes violations of my educational rights and my reputation. I completely have grounds for countersuing and seeking compensation. The practicing lawyer carefully verified the evidence one by one, instantly clarifying all the facts and, on the spot, dismantling all of Ryan and Laura's demands. The lawyer's attitude was serious and straightforward. Your lawsuit demands are completely unfounded and have no legal basis. Children have the right to receive education independently. No one has the right to interfere or deprive them. The sister has no obligation to bear the burden for her sister's difficulties or to sacrifice her own educational opportunities. The lawyer further warned, you have repeatedly maliciously harassed the examinee, fabricated facts to accuse, and publicly damaged others' reputation. The evidence is conclusive. If the parties file suit, you will bear a series of legal responsibilities including defamation and civil compensation. And in serious circumstances you may have a record of misconduct. This professional and authoritative legal conclusion completely shattered their final delusions. They originally thought the law could be a weapon to pin me down. They never expected it would instead confirm that they had engaged in infringement throughout and behaved unreasonably. Ryan's face turned pale and he could no longer maintain his composure. His hands trembled slightly. Laura's tears froze on her face. All the staged grievances failed, leaving only extreme fear and panic in her eyes. Iris's feeble disguise completely collapsed. She lowered her head and dared not speak, clearly knowing that all her scheming had failed and would put their parents at legal risk. The lawyer finally made it clear that the fault in the dispute lies entirely with our family, and they will not accept any unreasonable litigation entrustment. At the same time, he advised them to immediately stop all harassment and pressure in order to avoid bearing more serious legal consequences. After the law firm's crushing defeat, Ryan and his wife and child lost all confidence to openly contend. They couldn't win the lawsuit, couldn't suppress the public opinion, and their family coercion attempts to force my compromise failed repeatedly. Yet they still refused to accept my complete release from their control. Iris, unable to accept that she herself escaped exams and that I was taking the standard path, grew ill thoughts of faking exam eligibility and substituting to take my place in the admissions process. After the nationwide unified exam ended, the local college admissions office began preliminary information filing and verification. All examinees' test records, identities, and exam registrations entered the initial review phase, a critical period for locking in admission slots. Iris seized this timing loophole and plotted a substitution scheme to cheat the system, relying on us being twin sisters with strikingly similar appearances. She secretly kept my personal registration information and applicant records, planning to exploit the lax online preliminary review and offline random checks to falsely claim that I abandoned the exam and willingly gave up my admission qualification, allowing her to substitute my test scores and my chance at a prestigious university. Ryan and Laura, fully aware that this was a violation and theft of another's admissions rights, still chose to tolerate and shield them. In their eyes, my future was always meant to belong to Iris. As long as their younger daughter could attend a prestigious school and have a glamorous future, substitution, fraud, and violations were insignificant. The three of them, without me, quietly went to the local college admissions consultation office to attempt undefeatable manipulation. I had long anticipated their depraved motives. After the previous life's nationwide exam, Iris relied on the parents' connections, lying that I had given up the exam and quietly took over my original prestigious university preliminary review slot. If not for the final review rejection, my life would have been completely replaced. After rebirth, I kept a close eye on the admissions process and had all defenses prepared in advance. I followed them to the admissions consultation office and, as soon as they connected with the admissions officer and were about to submit their false statements, I stepped forward and interrupted their conversation. Laura spoke first, attempting to set the tone early, lying regretfully to the admissions officer. Teacher, my older daughter Luna's exam anxiety collapsed, and she voluntarily gave up the nationwide exam, giving up all opportunities for further education. She is not keen on studying, and we truly regret it. We want Iris, my younger daughter, to substitute for her registration qualifications and participate in the admissions review using this exam slot. Iris immediately complied, putting on a well-behaved and sensible demeanor and softly agreeing. Yes, teacher. My sister voluntarily gave up her studies and does not want to waste the precious nationwide exam slot. I'm willing to fight for our family's chance at higher education. Ryan, meanwhile, produced a prepared false case explanation, attempting to mislead the staff into approving the process and quickly finalize the substitution. The admissions officer was about to review the documents. I stepped forward directly, presenting my own ID, the nationwide exam applicant registration receipt, and the full exam site attendance records. Teacher, please do not rely on false statements. My tone was calm and forceful. I personally participated normally in the entire national exam, arrived on time, submitted on time, with no abstention, no non-attendance, and no withdrawal of registration. All official systems can verify in real time. I opened the national exam official backend on the spot, displaying my complete exam trajectory, campus surveillance records, and site sign-in archives. Every piece of information was clear and verifiable, completely destroying their abstention lie. Then I straightforwardly exposed their plot. They have attempted to obstruct my exam multiple times, using twin identity fraud to substitute my admission slot. This constitutes maliciously stealing examinees' rights and illegally interfering with college admissions. The admissions officer immediately grew stern and began online verification of my applicant information. The system data perfectly matched the materials I provided, definitively confirming that I had been taking the exam normally throughout. By contrast, Iris's system clearly showed no registration or exam records for this session. Her lie collapsed at once. The scam was exposed on the spot. Iris's face paled instantly, and she hurriedly tried to defend herself, but there was no way to speak. Ryan and Laura's expressions sank completely, as if turned to dead water, their limbs stiff, standing in place in extreme embarrassment. The admissions staff gave the three of them a stern warning on the spot, clearly informing them that college admissions rules absolutely prohibit impersonation, cheating, or malicious occupation of someone else's place. Such conduct has seriously violated the National Standard Test Admissions Regulations, and at minimum it would result in the cancellation of all personal eligibility to apply. At most it would be recorded on an integrity blacklist, affecting all future admissions and civil service screening. At the same time, the staff immediately locked my candidate file, marking it as my exclusive examination profile and exclusive place. No one has the right to replace, tamper with, or impersonate, thereby sealing Iris's every scheme path. I took the opportunity to submit the full set of evidence from the family's earlier disturbances, false accusations, and attempts to obstruct my exam, and filed it in the admissions office records to prevent them from using connections or backroom maneuvers in the future. After the conspiracy of recruitment substitution was completely exposed, Ryan, Laura, and Iris exhausted all chances to overturn the situation. Family abduction, public smear, official pressure, legal coercion, and replacement of spots. These layered tactics all failed, and the family fell into complete powerlessness and fear. They had no way left to shake my life and could only passively await the final outcome. A few days later, the results of the National College Entrance Examination were officially announced, and the admissions channels for prestigious universities were simultaneously opened. My scores remained at the top of the state, far surpassing the Ivy League admission line, and I smoothly received a full scholarship offer from a top university. A golden, glossy acceptance letter sealed my bright and straightforward new life. News returned home, and the entire villa fell into an eerie silence. The three people who used to nitpick me and ruthlessly exploit me had completely lost all arrogance and dominance. In the evening, they proactively waited in the courtyard, dropping their previous hardline posture and lowering themselves, appearing humble and conciliatory. The successive failures, the online ridicule, and the official warnings had long worn down all their swagger, leaving only deep remorse and panic. Laura was the first to bow her head, her tone no longer sharp and aggressive but only a cautious plea. Luna, we were wrong. We were biased and confused before, and we shouldn't have blocked you or made you suffer again and again. You got into a prestigious school now. Your future is bright. Don't hold a grudge against us. Come home and live a good life. Okay. Ryan also toned down all parental authority, adopting a conciliatory stance. A family has no irreconcilable conflicts. Let the past go. Your sister knows she was wrong. From now on we will treat you well and never favor anyone again. Iris, nearby, finally shed her weak disguise, eyes full of unwillingness and remorse, but could only suppress her emotions. Bowing her head in apology, Sister, it's my selfishness and my cowardice. I shouldn't pretend to be sick to deceive Mom and Dad, and I shouldn't have plotted against your future. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me this time, the three sang in unison, humbly seeking reconciliation under the banner of family affection, attempting to soften my heart and make me compromise, continuing to maintain the original family dynamic, and letting me continue to support and accommodate them for the family and my sister. They witnessed me break free from restraint and rise again, and they clearly understood that losing my bottom line and concessions would mean Iris, who is lazy and cowardly, could never catch up with me for the rest of her life. This home could no longer rely on exploiting me for stability. The extreme disparity and fear forced them to bow their heads in apology, facing the family's belated apologies and pleas. My mind remained unmoved and unmoved. In my past life I had given everything, yielding, tolerating, sacrificing only to receive endless exploitation, calculation, and betrayal. Their apologies were never truly remorseful. They were only a sign that, seeing my success and fame, they wanted to continue to bind my life and cling to my future. I looked at the three of them directly, my tone calm yet resolute, completely cutting off all entanglements. No need to apologize, nor to seek reconciliation. In the past I repeatedly yielded, and you took advantage. Now I guard my life, and you know to repent. I do not need this belated apology. From the moment you insisted on obstructing my exams, undermining me with rumors, and attempting to substitute my future, our familial bond has already been completely severed. Laura's face went pale in an instant, and she hurried forward to grab my arm, her voice frantic. Luna, you can't be so heartless. We are your biological parents and sister. Blood ties cannot be severed. How can you completely absolve us? I sidestepped, my stance firm, every word clear. Blood ties are not a one-sided chain that binds me. 18 years of sacrifice is enough. From now on, my life belongs only to me. I will not retreat, compromise, or sacrifice for anyone again. Iris's eyes reddened, her face full of unwillingness, but she could no longer utter a single word in defense. She is clear that it was her own laziness, selfishness, and scheming that personally buried the relationship with her sisters that should have been harmonious, and also personally ruined all of her possibilities. Ryan, looking at me with a decisive attitude and a calm aura, felt a heart full of remorse he could not vent. He finally understood that they had personally lost the most sensible, most forgiving, and forever silently sacrificing daughter, no matter how humble their attempt at reconciliation now. They could never regain a fraction of it. I no longer spare a glance at the three people in a pitiful state, turning and stepping into the room, tidying up my personal documents and the admission letter. From now on, I will go to a prestigious university, embark on a new life trajectory, and completely sever ties with the family of origin that only squeezed me dry. They will ultimately pay a painful price for their favoritism, indulgence, and scheming, trapped in place to bear endless remorse and desolation, and I will break free from all shackles, with a clear path ahead. Radiant and towering,